Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to the heated and spectacular round 11 of the Tata Steel Masters in 2024. Before this round, after 10 rounds, we had two leaders. The best players so far with 6.5 points were the top grandmasters and the best players of their generation, Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Gukesh. Gukesh had a tough quest today. He had to play against Alireza Firouzja. I would say it like this, he only played a draw. I cannot really say that Gukesh should be the favorite against Alireza, but so far Gukesh played really great chess, and I think he wanted to get more today out of the game against Alireza. Unfortunately for him, he played only draw. Had, I think, when I watched the game, also some great winning chances against Alireza, but as I said, the game ended with a draw, which gave now Nodirbek Abdusattorov a huge opportunity in his game against Wenjun to be the sole leader of this prestigious chess event. So let's see now what happened. In my opinion, very crazy game with many great tactical shots. Let's see now what happened in the game between Nodirbek Abdusattorov against Wenjun. So as I said, Nodirbek with huge opportunities to take the lead, open with the move e4. We have e5 by Wenjun, knight to f3, knight to c6, and after bishop to c4, we have the Italian game on the board. Knight to f6, two knight defense, d3, keeping the structure healthy here in the center and also controlling so far the d5 square. Bishop to e7, normal development, kingside castling, and now already an interesting choice here by Nodirbek, bishop to b3. Usually you should try to avoid to play with the same piece twice, but here I think Nodirbek has a different idea in mind. This idea has been also introduced to us by Magnus Carlsen. He played this against Bu Yangye also with, I think, not a great success. Black won the game. Magnus didn't get the best out of this line. But the idea about this line is to play c3, bishop to c2, and then control here the e4 pawn, c3, bishop to c2, and then let the pawns roll here in the center of the board by pushing the pawn to d4. So it's, I think, a pragmatic idea to get the d4 gore in a different way. Here Wenjun continued with the move a5, trying of course to attack the bishop. Also d6 is possible to get the bishop out here on g4, but so far a5 seems, I think, more aggressive. I think good choice here by black to proceed like this. We have c4, a theoretical novelty, a move that has not been played so far in chess history. Here Nodirbek introduces maybe something that he has prepared at home. But what I don't like about this move c4 is that you of course keep the d4 square unprotected, because you have already pushed the e pawn. Now you have pushed the c pawn, so there's no possibility anymore to play c3 or e3 to control the potential outpost of a minor piece. It could be a knight, of course, or it could be also a bishop. When one of those minor pieces gets on d4, as I said, it cannot be simply kicked away anymore by pawn. So from a strategic point of view, this is very risky. From a positional, I think, space point of view, this is of course perfectly fine, because you're still controlling the d5 square. If you occupy it immediately, this would not be good. Here for black, you cannot play it like this. You have to somehow support for the knight, because after knight to d4, he takes d4 and f4. White will have this powerful control here on the king side, will let the pawns roll. Has here, I think, a beautiful pawn majority, 4 versus 3 on this side of the board. The bishop could eventually come into the game. This bishop is already good. We will eventually maybe reroute the knight to d2, knight to f3, and I think this is a perfect position here for white. So far, after move c4, you cannot of course play knight to d4 immediately. So that's why d6, and the position should be pretty equal. Now the bishop is out, and I think black has also good chances here to make something. Also, when we think about it harder, it's hard for white to occupy maybe the d5 square. You would love to do that, but black still has the flexibility when you move the knight maybe somewhere to play the move c6, and you'll never be able to fix your position around the square d5. So that's the risky idea here by Nodirbek to play this d3 c4 e4 structure. So let's see now how Wenjun handled this opening novelty here by Nodirbek Abdusattorov. So here bishop to e3. Of course, here Nodirbek is controlling further the d4 square, wants in some lines to play maybe knight to c3, and then push the pawn to d4 and create really a breakthrough idea here in the center of the board. And I think Wenjun didn't react immediately correctly. She played here knight to d7, blocking out the light square bishop immediately. This move I would not evaluate as an inaccuracy, mistake, or blunder or something, but I think here bishop to g4 would be more aggressive. especially because of the fact that you are controlling further the d4 square, the square that I think Nodirbek Abdusattorov left behind. So he has this obvious strategic disadvantage. He has this weakness on d4. Now you're attacking further the knight that is controlling the d4 square. So I think in the next couple of moves you could do maneuver knight to d7 later, knight to c5, knight to e6, and then knight to d4. This would be, I think, a nice positional idea to get really a nice fixed position around the square d4. Pinning the knight is, I think, here perfectly fine. If you play h3, bishop to f3, queen to f3, you kick away the bishop. Now you play this maneuver, knight to d7, knight to e6, knight to d4, and I think this should be perfect play, because now you see the bishop on c2 is a little bit paralyzed by its own pawns, and it's hard to make this whole idea with f4 work, because you have to first again move the queen, then push f4. So in my opinion, this would be a much more powerful continuation for Wenjun. But okay, nothing wrong. As I said, knight to d7 still possible because of the same maneuver, knight to c5, knight to e6, and then maybe to fix the structure around the square d4. But this knight is of course still the key protector of the d4 square. Bishop to a4. Here Nodirbek attacks now the knight. We have knight to b4. We have a3 by Nodirbek, and Wenjun simply retreated with the knight on a6, which is, I think, great choice. Although the knight is on the edge of the board, but now you have the possibility even to play the move c5 and do the same, basically do a similar symmetrical structure, d6, c5, e5, also keeping your chances still around the square d4. Here Nodirbek continued with knight to c3, normal development, c6 here by Wenjun. Maybe c5 also would be possible to simply fix the position, then as I said, to maybe even play knight to b8, knight to c6, and then later knight to d4. And here after move c6, Nodirbek had, I think, now a good choice to activate finally the light square bishop. We can say that the light square bishop is really a little bit messed up because of the structure here. The light square bishop is not playing such an important role so far in the game, but here Nodirbek, I think, had also a decent choice, which he didn't play the game, but I found this idea very interesting. Maybe to play the move d4 after something like e takes d4, knight to d4, knight to c5, bishop to c2. Now you're rolling again, and suddenly the bishop on a4 when it gets to c2 gets, I think, more powerful in the game, especially because of the possibilities of f4, then maybe e5 breaking, somehow attacking the h7 square. I think this would be a powerful option here for Nodirbek. But okay, he played now bishop to c2. Here again, Wenjun maybe had the chance to play c5 with the idea knight to b8, knight to c6, knight to d4, fixing everything. Both players would have, I think, a structural disadvantage here, of course, weaknesses, but both players can of course also later attack the position. But okay, after bishop to c2, knight to c5 by Wenjun, again with the same idea, knight to e6, knight to d4, b4 by Nodirbek, knight to a6, queen to d2, controlling of course the f4 square. This could be also a useful square for the knight. We have knight to f6 by Wenjun, and now knight to a4. Here Nodirbek sensed some activities, sensed some strategic problems here in black's camp, especially the b6 square is now huge problem in black's position. A takes b4, a takes b4, b5, c takes b5, c takes b5, knight to b6, everything is pretty much forced. Rook takes a1, rook takes a1, and now Wenjun makes maybe even the first inaccuracy, I would say, plays now a move that I think 90% of players would play, bishop to b7. Seems tempting. You're developing the light square bishop. You're getting, of course, the d5 goal. But the issue here for black is that the rook is attacking the bishop in the later stage of the game, and the bishop is a little bit loose. It's unprotected. The bishop on c8 is, of course, glued together to the queen. And here Wenjun, I think, had some issues to lose maybe the light square bishop. But here I think, again, a more aggressive choice would have been the d5 move immediately, and I think the game would be pretty equal after a couple of more moves. Look at this, knight to c8, of course, maybe here white takes the light square bishop, which is of course a powerful piece. Then after queen to c8, bishop to b3, it seems so that black could have some light square problems, but you just undermine the pressure in the center by trading off more pawns. Okay, maybe white could do something like this, knight to e5, bishop to d6, d4, and I think this should be pretty equal. You could maybe try bishop to e5 here, simplifying the game, and both players would have, I think, here weaknesses in the position, so I think this is nothing gained also. Here for white, the position is symmetrical, the pawn structure is symmetrical. I don't think the bishop pair is such an important thing here for white. But as I said, this was maybe the way to go. Here you see now the difference when you play bishop to b7, when you want to prepare further the d5 move that you could have played earlier now in the game, because here Nodirbek plays now the move bishop to b3. Now after move d5, that of course Wenjun played, now comes this idea rook to a7, and the bishop is unprotected. You have to do something. That's why here after d takes e4, knight to e5, it seems that is the same position, but it's really not the same, because after queen to c7, now Nodirbek pulled off this beautiful tactical shot, knight takes f7. And as I said, you could have been already there with the move d5. Now the queen is overloaded to the defense of the bishop on c7. It's very unpleasant now to handle this activity of the rook on the 7th rank, and here Nodirbek found the ultimate tactical, really great tactical shot, and it's the correct one. Here Nodirbek found the best suggested move by the Stockfish, and really well stuff. What should you do? Of course, you cannot take with the rook. Then, of course, you're simply losing the knight, and black will lose decisive material. And I think white should be much better. So here, from move king to f7, here Nodirbek, believe me or not, doesn't react correctly. He played this amazing sacrifice, but he missed now the follow-up. Here, Nodirbek should have simply played d takes e4, and it's so complicated. This is such a brutal line that I'm showing you now. Only the Stockfish engine can, I think, see this that's following now. This wasn't played in the game. D takes e4, believe me, is now the best choice. Here, if you play here something like rook to d8, kick with the queen, knight to d5 would be then the best choice here for white, because for something like knight to d5, e takes d5, you cannot move the knight here on f8 in order to stay with your extra piece, because d6 is liberating the diagonal for the light square bishop, and you would lose the queen. So here after move knight to d5, you would have to step back with the queen on c6, but now the ultimate stunner is actually calm move queen to e2 in order to get the queen somehow to h5, because if you played here knight to e4, this wouldn't be good, because of queen to h5, you cannot of course get here to g8, because you lose the bishop on e7 with knight to e7. If you get the king to f8, then here this stunner is coming. Rook takes b7, queen takes b7, and now queen to f5. You have to cover. Knight takes f6, bishop to f6. Look at this. Queen to e6 threatened in some lines even checkmate here. But the cool part is that the d1 square is protected, so there is no back rank problem here for rook to d8. This was just a pure Stockfish engine line that I'm showing here. No one, I think, can calculate like this. But here, let's go back. After this move knight to d5, we have seen knight to e4 would not be good. After queen to c6, queen to e2. Actually, what black should play here is queen to e8. Still, it's complicated. After knight to f6, bishop to f6, bishop to e6, queen to e6, and now after queen to b7. That was, I think, the issue in the beginning of this tactical sequence, because the queen in the beginning was overloaded to the defense of the bishop on b7. That was the move that we have talked about, that Wenjun should not have played bishop to b7. The bishop always a problem, a tactical problem in the game. So you could maybe try now queen to e4, but now after rook to c7, here of course white is slightly better with an extra pawn. No back rank problems are here present, because you can deliver a check, but we can cover with rook to c1, and the king is lined up here on the e file, so there are maybe some discoveries. So still a tough time here for black. That was after move here king to f7. This move d takes e4 should have been here Nodirbek's move with the preparation to play the move knight to d5. Nodirbek played now queen to a2. He put more pressure against this knight on e6, and now many of us, I think, would simply play this idea by Wenjun, queen to c6. Of course, you are protecting your knight on e6, but this is a huge blunder, which I think gave here a huge opportunity for Nodirbek to win the game. Look at this. What the better choice was, instead of this move queen to c6, is actually a strange move, rook to d8. Rook to d8, the only defensive move here for black. Believe it or not. Look at this. Then this leads into this tactical sequence. Bishop takes e6. You have to step back here to f8. Now actually what white should do is to play the move bishop to d5. After something like knight to d5, we can play knight to d5, bishop to d5, we pick up this one, you pick up this one, rook takes c7, and now after, look at this, e takes d3, suddenly black is better, because black has this passer on the d file. This is really, really cool stuff that Wenjun, I think, here missed. What you could do instead of this move after king to e6 and king to f8, you could maybe try here to do something like queen to b2 to maybe get out of this tactical mess. But now after again e takes d3, I'm showing you the power of this move, that actually the pawn is rolling here on the d file supported by the rook. The rook on d8 is very, very important here to play. You cannot here take the pawn on e4 immediately, because you get checkmated in one with rook to d1. That was, as I said, the only defensive move, this idea. Rook to d8, leaving even the knight on e6 unprotected. Very, very wild stuff. I'm not sure how many of us would see this move, but unfortunately for you, she played now queen to c6, simply protecting. But we notice, of course, that the queen is overloaded to both of the defense of both of these pieces, to the knight on e6, but also to the bishop on b7. Here, Nodirbek, of course, plays the beautiful deflection idea. Rook takes b7, queen to b7, and now finally bishop to e6. And here black is getting destroyed on light score. So many problems in black's position. So I think from this point on, the game becomes a one-way ticket here in white's favor. So here Nodirbek, of course, plays d takes e4. What should you do? For instance, if you retreat with the bishop, this wasn't playing the game to maybe attack the knight, then this idea is always working. Knight to d5, we retreat, you have to step back, queen to c6, now we push the pawn e5. If you take, of course, knight to d5, then here bishop to d5. Always the back rank problems are not something that worry here Nodirbek, because the bishop is protecting that. So you can maybe try knight to d7, then we play h3 or h4. So as I said, the light score problems, I think, are simply too much to handle. The bishop will eventually come into the game. You can maybe try here bishop to h4, g3. Look at this, bishop to d4. This is just again the stockfish line that I'm showing here. Now after something like knight to c7, we can always later play something like f4. So the king is stuck in the center. So I think I would not love to play this position with the black pieces, although you're up the exchange, but it doesn't matter here with such a naked king here on e8. So that was maybe a way to somehow survive with this move bishop to d8. But you played now even the worst move, queen to e4. Another blunder here by black. Here Nodirbek uses this moment and plays now knight to d5. If you play here queen to e6, obviously you get the royal fork here on c7. Great attacking move here by Nodirbek. After knight to d5, bishop to d8, h3, calm move, beautiful move, creating some breathing spaces here for the king. We have rook to f7, and now here Nodirbek plays the best again move, queen to a6, not allowing now this piece to be taken. You can always deliver maybe one check, but really no perpetuals are possible. We'll simply cover. So here in the game we have knight to d5 finally by Wenjun, and now here Nodirbek played an amazing queen to c6. Doesn't want to even pick up the knight immediately, or first including the queen into the game. We have king to f8 and now queen to d6. You cannot cover, of course, because of the checkmate threat here with queen to b8. After queen to d6, we have king to e8, and now finally bishop to d5. Again, no problems here, no good checks are possible here for black. We can simply get out of this mess, so it's simply not working. So that's why here, for instance, you could maybe try, we cover it trying something like this, then we first pick up here with bishop takes f7, king to f7, and then queen to c7 is not trapping the queen actually here in this particular position. So here for move queen to d6, that's why king to e8 was played. Now bishop to d5 finally by Nodirbek. We have queen to e7. Wenjun is desperately trying now to somehow trade off the queens, and here after move queen to c6 in this particular position, Wenjun resigned. Obviously, if you get the king here to f8, then you get this one, bishop to c5 traps the queen. If you try something, I don't know, to cover, then this problem is present. Bishop takes f7, deflects the queen from the defense of the king. Even if you get the king here, bishop to g5 or bishop to c5, again, wins the game here for white. Great game here by Nodirbek, I would say. because he saw this tactic, but we have seen after knight to f7, Nodirbek made immediately this mistake, which you should have punished here with rook to d8, as I said. But these are the dirty tactics that you see sometimes when you get such a tactic on you. I think sometimes you cannot see it clearly afterwards the lines. This was a shocking tactic after knight to f7. I've seen it many times in my games. I have a decent position, my opponent stuns me with a tactic. Maybe this is not even the most accurate tactic in some lines, but you're so scared about this move, and then you don't see simply the best defensive moves. I think a similar thing happened like this in this particular game. Wenjun had this chance with rook to d8, but unfortunately missed it. But now we have to say Nodirbek Abdusattorov is now sole leader in the Tata Steel Masters in 2024. Really crazy performance so far. He is now 7.5 points out of the first 11 rounds. Now, of course, he has everything in his hands. If he now wins the last 2 games, he's simply the winner of this prestigious and beautiful chess event. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Really interesting ideas. We have seen novelties, interesting ideas of the Italian openings. So, see, openings are studied in a really deeper way. Maybe this is a different line, not so often played line, but I think great also opening choice here by Nodirbek. So I hope, as I said, that you love this game. If you want to see some other content here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our commented chess games, but also our commented chess games played by computers with some cool Stockfish games and also some other top engine games. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.